Well, hello and welcome to the Creating Connections podcast, where I bring voices and perspectives from people who are making a difference for children's learning and development. I'm Rachel Stewart and I'm passionate about connecting with people to share experiences and learn from each other how we can best support children to thrive. In this series of the podcast, we are exploring successful leaders in education so you can learn from a diverse range of people what makes a successful leader and how you can take their learnings and apply them to your leadership. Today, I'm introducing you to Cassandra Willis, current Assistant Principal of Mount Eliza College in Victoria, Australia. In this episode, Cassandra will share stories about her journey from her home country in Ireland and how she came to live and work as a teacher and now leader in education. She will also share her work as a coach for teachers and in supporting them with their career aspirations and in how to transition from other countries to work here in Australia. So I'd like to welcome Cassandra Willis to the podcast today. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. It's really great
Yes.
to meet you, and I'm really excited to hear your story. We talked a little bit about your journey from Ireland and
Mm,
how you've come to be in Australia and to become a leader in education in a school on the peninsula. And I'm really
yeah.
excited to explore your history and how that came about. But I suppose it's really important timing because we've got a lot of teacher shortage across Australia and in fact across the world, but we're
Yeah.
seeing a lot more teachers being recruited from overseas into our schools in Australia, particularly from Ireland. So it's really great timing to have this conversation with you to explore your own journey, but also how you support teachers who are making the journey as well. So perhaps you can share with us to start with how you got into education and what your passion for how you became a teacher, what
Mm.
really inspired you to become a teacher back in Ireland.
Yeah, absolutely. But firstly, thank you so much for this. This is a wonderful opportunity to share, as you say, my story and a little bit more about where I'm at right now and how I think I can help other teachers like myself. I guess for me, as a student in school, I really had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. And I remember my younger sister saying at one point she was going to be a PE teacher. And I thought, okay, yeah, I could do that too. So I think I really fell into teaching. But when I look back now, I can connect the dots. As Steve Jobs said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking back. And I can see how that journey began and how it evolved to where I am today and how it was all meant to be exactly as it is. Um, One of the reasons I thought I would love to do that, be a PE teacher, was because I did not like my PE teacher in school. I felt that in PE classes we were very much sidelined into either netball or hockey, field hockey. And I was a hockey player, and that's all I was ever allowed to do. And for me, I love dance, I love fitness. I would have spent hours in my room doing step aerobics back in the day. I was just into so many other things that weren't offered to me in school. And I just wanted to be that PE teacher that showed students there was other options. There's so much more to PE than just one sport. And it doesn't have to be a team sport. It can be an individual activity where you can thrive. So that was a bit of the motivation as well to be a PE teacher specifically. And I trained over in England. I trained in Manchester for 4 years and then went back to Northern Ireland to teach there and fell into an amazing school where I stayed for 16 years. And they offered what you guys called here Rock a Stedford. We call that Rock Challenge in the UK, and I find my passion in that. I find this is my baby. I absolutely love being creative, coming up with ideas for performances, guiding the students through the rehearsals for 9 months of the year, and seeing not just the end result, the outcome of the students on stage and having a great time, but the social skills that they developed along the way, the friendships that I know are lifelong, that these kids that I worked with still are best friends to this day. That for me was such a fulfilling moment in my career to do that for so many years and see the students thrive. and learn dance routines and learn how to create set and choreography and costumes and all of that. But the personal, I really thrived on the personal interactions and connections made through that. So I did that, and then yeah, I guess I had this lifelong goal to move back to Australia. We'd lived in Australia for a year, and when I was two, and I grew up wondering what life could have been like if we had stayed in Australia. So yeah, I set about trying to figure out how do I get to Australia? How do I go and live and work there? And it seemed like, so far away and such a big dream. How am I ever going to do that? And I remember a colleague in that school speaking to me and saying that she had done a teacher exchange program. And I says, tell me more. And she had exchanged to Western Australia for a year and loved it, loved the whole experience, and just couldn't say enough good things about the exchange. So I applied for my own exchange, and I did that in 2012, and loved that, and eventually came back to Australia permanently.
Great. Well, it sounds like yeah, your passion for sport and the arts was what led you into teaching, and I guess my first question around that is, what was it like back in Ireland in terms of the focus on the arts? And you mentioned, all the different skills that people learn or children learn through playing sport and being involved in the Rock of Stedford. And I recall in my own school journey, we had Rock of Stedford every year, and I was a very shy kid, so I never got involved in that. But I do remember thinking that all the kids that were involved in it had so much fun. And yes, they made lifelong friendships, and it's such a rewarding experience. What is it like back in Ireland in terms of the emphasis on the arts and sport? Because I know here in Australia we do have opportunities for children to learn all different sports at school and to be participating in drama and the arts and music, but it's never really necessarily been a huge focus on in our education. It's more often the focus is on maths and or literacy and numeracy. What's it like back in Ireland? And do you see that? Do you see differences in Australia as compared to back home?
Oh gosh, Rachel, it was one of the biggest shocks for me actually when I moved to Australia, because I guess growing up in Northern Ireland, we looked at Australia as this amazing sporting nation who would win all these Olympic medals and everything. We just assumed that everybody was a surf champion and highly athletic and sporty. That was the assumption, whenever and I guess when you live at the other side of the world and you don't know any better, you just that was just what we saw on the TV.
Yeah,
Everybody in Home and Away and Neighbours was on a surfboard. We just thought this was the life that everybody lived.
yeah,
Um, and in our schools in Northern Ireland, I guess when I was in school, I didn't see many opportunities for the arts. I was, like, as I say, really much railroaded into playing hockey. Team sports are very big, and the school system around sports is very strong. And by that, I mean there are a lot of fixtures, inter-school fixtures throughout the year. So there is a big focus on PE in the curriculum, but then the after-school sport in school. So, most children will stay for some activity after school. And every PE teacher stays after school every day of the week for an extra hour to take whatever PE activity they're offering. And then there's Saturday sports for schools. So the Saturday sports system is huge. Again, that's inter-school fixtures on a Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, and then the kids that are involved in that will go on to their club sport. So we'll spend an hour after school playing sport for the school, training, practicing, playing matches, doing fixtures, and then in the evening go to their club sports, whether that's soccer, rugby, cricket, hockey, netball, whatever it is. And then there's the Saturday. Saturday is basically sport all day, school sport in the morning, club sport in the afternoon. So when I came to Australia, and when I came, I was working in a country school. First week, of course, I'm super keen. Okay, what can I do after school? Which clubs can I take? And they went, what? What are you talking about? I went, what's the extracurricular program here? And I went, oh no, 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 we don't do that. The kids all just go out on their buses, they go home and they go to their club sport. I'm like, oh, okay. So when do they compete against other schools? And was told, well, it's one day in the summer, summer sports day and winter sports day. And that's not necessarily games. That could be ten-pin bowling or clay pigeon shooting. I'm like, okay, what? It's just so confusing. It's like, okay, well, how are you so good at sport when there isn't this really strong school sport? And I guess what I discovered then was certainly in some of the schools in the cities, Melbourne, Sydney, and so on, they would have much stronger, much more kind of UK style of sporting history and involvement. But further out from the city you go, not so much. It's the country sport, it's the club sport. So yeah,
Yes.
that was very, very different for me. And I guess when I moved here, I thought, okay, well, the thing that you do have that's the same, which is perfect for me, is the productions, school productions. Rockestead, unfortunately, had closed and shut down, so I wasn't able to do that. So I was like, okay, give me a school production, I'll get involved in that. I'll choreograph, I'll do whatever you need me to do in a school production. So that's where I find my little after school outlet. Because I felt I felt the loss of not staying every day after school to do sport. Yeah.
And it would give you a chance to get to know the students more too, having those opportunities. And yeah, I recall in my own schooling, I went to quite a large school and we did have weekend sport and sport training after school. And but I feel like it's changed slightly over the years. And yet a lot of rural country towns, their whole town tends to revolve around community sport and the clubs in the town really bring people together as part of the community. So it is quite a different dynamic, I suppose. What are some of the other things that you found completely out of your comfort zone when you first came to work in a country town, in a rural school? What were the
Yeah.
differences? I suppose coming from a fairly small country, being
Mm.
Ireland, and it feels to me when I went to Ireland, it feels to me like a country town in itself. What were the things that really struck you that were very different, and some of the things I suppose that were quite similar to back home?
One I remember before I came to Australia again, these perceptions that we have. I was I was told that the work-life balance here in Australia was so much better. I was told that people at home, and I know this from being at home, people live to work. Their lives revolve around work. And then if they're lucky, they get a weekend and they enjoy that. Whereas in Australia, they work to live. And I think I also thought that that meant that teachers and any professionals here didn't take their work as seriously. They weren't as professional. They weren't as invested in their work. But I guess what I found was that, yes, the work-life balance here is so much better. And people do work to live, but they are equal, if not more professional, more invested. And I think in country towns, even more so. We know it takes a village to raise children. And when you live in a small country town, it's a small school, the only school within whatever radius. The students that we're teaching are our children, our neighbours' children, our family children. They're part of it's a family. And I guess that brings a bigger investment from teachers then because they know we know these kids, these are our kids. So there's definitely that difference. And I think one of the other things was camps. Camps here in Australia is definitely a bigger thing than it is at home. If we're going on an excursion or a trip back home, it's to Europe for a week or a couple of days.
How
Whereas
nice.
here, it's pretty nice. But here it's all right, let's pack all the kids off on a bus for a camp for a week. They're going to canoe down the river or build rafts, whatever it is. And again, coming from Northern Ireland where we don't have snakes, we don't have spiders that can kill you. I was like, oh no, I'm not camping in Australia. This is well outside my comfort zone. But I did sign up for camps. Again, I'm a teacher who puts my hand up for everything. So I was like, if there's a cabin, I'll go on that camp. I'll not sleep in a tent because I'm not quite there yet. But if there's a cabin, I'll stay in that. So I've loved the camps and loved that whole experience of camping. I still don't go camping in tents yet, but I'm hopefully getting
It's
there.
a gradual
Uh,
process.
it is, it is. And just funny things, I remember my first day in the school, and it was in Cobram Secondary. The principal came over to me and said, "You're not allowed to wear thongs in school." And I thought,
What's a
just the
thong?
language and the lingo. And I thought, oh, okay, this is going to be a fun year. And the principal and the staff at one point during the year took myself and the Japanese teacher who was new to the school on an outback adventure. We went to Carnargo and Deniliquin. We met a biker gang who took us on their Harleys. And it was just like, what, is this a movie? Am I living in a completely different, where am I? It was amazing.
It's
So
a whole other
just all of
universe
those
in
little
Australia.
experiences. Yeah, it was just, the real Australian experience. And I've loved every moment of it. I really have. And every day, every week, there's something new that just makes me love Australia and love teaching and working here even more.
What did you find most challenging coming here in terms of, I guess, being placed in a rural school with no friends, no family, no one really around to support you? What sort of, it sounds like your school principal was amazing in helping you feel welcomed, but what other challenges did you face in terms of navigating not just the language and the lingo that we have, the Australianisms, I suppose, but also just the way of life and just that adjustment period that you went through?
I think I'm pretty fortunate, Rachel. I've always been someone who loved going away and being away from home. If I was ever on a trip with school or away on holiday with family, when it came to going home again, I never wanted to go home. So I've never been a homesick type of person. And I think I'm pretty adaptable and very flexible. So coming into a completely new system with new people, I actually think I thrived on that and really rose to that occasion. That's not to say things weren't challenging, leaving my family and moving to Australia. That was hard, but I knew I was coming on an adventure. And for me, I look at life and certainly my career like a book. Like every new thing is a new chapter, and I'm excited to see how is this going to unfold and what's going to happen in this chapter. So for me, it's all an adventure. I don't ever look at going somewhere new or not knowing anybody or being in a new system that I don't know. I don't ever look at that as a negative or a challenge. I look at it like, this is great. What can I learn? What's going to happen? How am I going to grow? And what am I going to experience in this? So it's all perception, it's mindset around those types of things. And as I say, my first year when I moved back on my permanent residency visa. Professionally, I'd never been in a better place. Within 9 months, I was moved into a leading teacher role. But personally, lots of challenges. I had a relationship breakup. My property back home wasn't selling and was becoming a money pit. So financially, I was in a really tough spot. And within just over a year, my mum became unexpectedly sick and I had to go home and she passed away. So my first term really in leading teacher role, a lot of that I spent at home, not here in that role. So definitely lots of challenges. And I find that because moving to Australia and working and living here had been my lifelong dream and goal. Whenever I'd achieved that and I was now here and doing it and living it, I found myself a bit lost. I hadn't gone and re-examined and gone, right, okay, what next? What's the next goal? So I was just kind of coasting and drifting and going with the flow and really had no direction. And for me, I need to know, okay, what's next? I need to have a plan. I'm a planner. And without a plan, I found myself really lost and not isolated because I have friends and family here. I've got family in Mount Eliza. I've got friends in Melbourne from home and in Sydney. I've got friends and family. So I always had plenty of people. And as I say, everything was exciting and wonderful, but I definitely felt the challenge of what's my next, what am I doing here? What's the point of me being here now that I've achieved it? What's this all about? What do I do next? So I had to really look at my life, look at my career, look at all my reason for being here again, especially after my mum passed. And I thought maybe I should go home again. I had to really re-examine where I was at and go, okay, there's a reason I'm here. What is it? What are the gifts that I haven't opened yet that I need to share? Because there's a reason for me being here. What is it that I'm supposed to be doing next? What are my goals? What do I want to achieve while I'm here? What do I want to do and experience? And where do I want to go? And just all of those questions kept coming up. And I got into personal development, and that really helped guide me to figuring out my purpose, setting new goals, creating a new vision of what the next number of years was going to look like.
Yeah, it's certainly quite a challenge, isn't it, to be in another country when your heart is being pulled from your home country, and I suppose getting back to perceptions and your perception of who you are and where you are is quite a challenging concept when you're faced with that dilemma of, do I go home? Do I finish my life here and go back home? And all of those different questions that do come up, and you really do need to go inward, don't you, and really explore, okay, what do I actually want in my
Yeah.
life? And it sounds like you've really done so much work in that space. And now, of course, you're doing some coaching with teachers who are perhaps feeling lost in their own direction, in their career aspirations, and also coaching teachers who do come to Australia. So can you share a little bit more about how you moved into coaching? It sounds like it was through your own personal journey, and how you've helped other teachers to navigate where to next in their own career pathways.
Yeah, absolutely. COVID, I think, was probably the ignition for my personal development journey. Being at home and having again those questions of what am I doing, what's happening in my life. I found Bob Proctor, who's a personal development guru over in Canada and the States, and I delved into during lockdown a 1 year program, which really helped me to answer all those questions for me. And I remember one of the things that he said was that your biggest obstacle leads you to your biggest opportunity. And for me, my biggest obstacle was I had no idea what I was doing next. I had no idea. Do I want to be a leading teacher, a principal, an assistant principal? Do I want to do something different? Do I want to write a book? What do I want to do? And that led me to thinking how, and through conversations with other teachers, I find that so many other people felt the same. They're like, I'm just kind of coasting. I'm a teacher, and that's probably going to be me for the rest of my career. And I don't really question that or know what else to do. And I thought, gosh, how many people are not living the life they want to live because they've got this great secure job that has a paycheck every fortnight. They don't need to think about it. They've got holidays that they know are set. How many other people are coasting and have no idea and are lost? And I thought, well, that's my obstacle. And that seems to be other people's obstacles. And as I learned more about me and answered those questions for me, I thought I can now do that and help other people because I've been there. It's been my obstacle. I know how to help people get past that. So I guess I started looking at how can I actually do that, and started off with conversations with colleagues, just asking those simple questions. What would you really love to do? What lights you up? What do you find that whenever you start to do that thing, suddenly hours have gone past and you haven't even noticed because you're so in the zone with what you love to do? What is that for you? And just getting people thinking about that, and reflecting. And for most people, they love teaching. For most teachers that I came across, I love teaching, but I want to do this and I haven't been able to do that yet. Or I'd like to move up into this role, but I don't know how to, or I don't think I can. I don't have the confidence. So yeah, and that led down then further conversations of why do you think you're not able to do that, or how do you think you could if you knew how to do it, what would that look like? And just all kinds of conversations with colleagues. And I just found that I was really good at it. And people kept coming back to me and having those conversations, saying, right, I need to talk to you again. I've had another thought. And I just loved it. And then I began coaching online with people who, like me, wanted to coach other people in different fields, life coaching, personal development coaching. And I thought, well, I'm good at working with teachers, so rather than me coaching the general public, I actually quite like coaching the coaches, helping the teachers to work out resources and bring the material and the information all together, and teaching them how to teach. So I did that for a while and loved that. And then it was just last year I thought, okay, I'm really good at interviewing. I'm really good at sharing my stories. I'm really good at applications. And I've been told that in the past. There's another gift that I haven't even thought about that I've got that I could open and share with other people. So I started to help some friends again who were going for jobs. And one particular one, I helped her to get a leading teacher role. And she, just when the conversation was happening, she kept saying, I've never thought about it this way. I've never thought about answering an application question like this, or structuring my selection criteria like this, or I've never thought about talking about this in my interview. So it kind of, it reaffirmed for me that what I was teaching and helping her with was needed because people don't know what they don't know.
Yeah.
So I started then to advertise just to the general public of teachers that if you need help, I know how to help you. I know how to help you structure your applications. I know how to help you interview and get the job that you really, really want, if that's what you want. And then if you don't want to be a teacher anymore, I know how to help you figure out, not necessarily give you a job or tell you this is what you must do, but help you and guide you to figure out your next chapter in your journey.
Yeah, and what a gift to discover in yourself, and obviously that self-reflection was leading you to that, to discover that gift. And how amazing is it as a coach to be able to not give the answers, but help others find the answers that they didn't know they had inside themselves. And that's what I love about coaching as well, and really exploring a person's potential that they didn't realize they had as well. And clearly that's why you love it as well. I think
Yeah.
with the amount of teachers that are deciding to leave the profession, I'd really love to
Mm.
hear your views on why you feel that's the case. And I guess you touched on it a little bit in terms of just coming to a point of where to next. Like, what is my role as a teacher? Do I just stay a teacher? Do I stay in my comfort zone?
Yeah.
Or is there something else out there that I'm supposed to be doing? And I guess
Yeah.
that's where some teachers are getting to that point where they're possibly burnt out, but also possibly seeking other ways to share their gifts like you did and you have and you're still doing. So
Yeah.
what do you think is the main reason why we are losing so many teachers at the moment, and why teachers are choosing new career pathways, and what sort of career pathways are they looking at going into?
It's a great question, and I don't think there's one answer. I think you've touched on a couple there, and I think that burnout is huge, definitely. But it's all coming from COVID, and I know we need to stop blaming COVID, but I really do believe that COVID experience, especially here in the Melbourne area, where the lockdown was so severe, I think it's impacted people way more than we will know for a long time until research over a long period of time is done. I think that that experience of not getting up and going to school every day and spending the day there and then coming home to your family, I think that experience of life outside of the school walls, albeit in our own home or our own little streets and parks around where we are, I think that opened up people's eyes that have been in teaching probably for a long time, that there's actually more. There's more to life. And I know for me, I went to school, I went to university, I started teaching. I've never left education. I've never done anything else. And there's a lot of people like that who have never worked in industries other than education. And that COVID experience maybe opened people's eyes up to, oh, maybe there's something else. Maybe there's some other thing that I'm supposed to be doing. Maybe I could work from home and have more time with my family and my dogs. And I think that really got people thinking. It certainly got me thinking about what else is there? What else could I do? But the impact on our students and people's mental health as a result of that 2 year period, the kids are not okay. And
Mm.
they're presenting with behaviors, and social media is huge. All of those new behaviors and impacts, and the fact that kids are so far behind in their learning has really taken a toll on teachers, and they're really struggling to adjust and keep up and catch up. It's the same job, but it's different, and it's the same pay for doing what feels like a whole lot more parenting um, than they ever did before. So it's all of that creating a bit of a perfect storm of, yeah, what else is there? And that fulfillment, I think at some point everybody reaches the point of, am I fulfilled in this role? Or is there another gift that I have that I haven't opened yet, that's just niggling at me in the background constantly, and talking to me and telling me, what about this? What about this dream? What about giving this a go? Um, so yeah, I think it's all of those things all coming together, saying a bit of a perfect storm.
Yeah, it's a certainly a compounding effect of a combination of the impact of COVID and the pandemic, and having that opportunity to reflect on your life, and
Yeah,
having the time to be able to spend with your family and on your own, I suppose, self-development during COVID was a positive, I think. However, the fallout from that is that we tried to go back to the way it was,
yes,
but we know that it actually shifted so much, and it was probably supposed to shift our mindsets in a lot of ways, but we're still resisting that, the changes that came with, being able to work from home and having more time to spend on our work-life balance.
yeah.
And the system in some ways is still resisting that.
Yeah.
How do you see, this is probably a pretty big question, but how do you see that sort of changing gradually over time, so that perhaps that teachers, uh, and I guess this is one of my dreams, is working a little bit more closely with parents so that we can manage or work out ways that we can not go back to the way things were, but move into a
Yeah.
new way of being, and learning, and I guess partnering together to
Yeah.
support children, because we know that they are suffering and they've fallen behind with their learning. And there's no easy solution, but that partnership between home and school really needs to shift, to
Yeah.
be able to, I guess, overcome these challenges and the resistance to change. What are your
Oh,
views around that?
absolutely. And I think that's always a challenge, is engaging families. I work in high school, which I think is more challenging than primary school. We definitely see, parents are very much involved in the life of primary schools and very connected to the school and the staff. As soon as that shift happens to high school, and it's not cool for your parents to come to school anymore, and we don't want you coming to school anymore, there's definitely that shift away from that partnership being as close, and that's always been an issue. I think the system is going to have to change completely. There's going to have to be some sort of stop and reset. And I know there's some things like the mental health toolkit being brought in is a good step forward. The FISO 2.0, where we've now recognised that well-being is equal to teaching and learning. It's not one more than the other. Is a step in the right direction, small step in the right direction towards recognising that we're co-parenting as well as teaching. And then co-parenting, we actually need to work with the parents. We can't just do our way of parenting and then send them home to be parented a completely different way. There needs to be a real look at, how do we do this together? How do we do this that we're working in partnership, hand in hand, and we're on the same page? And it's not two totally different stories going on at home and in school. And that's a huge overhaul, I think, from what we have at the moment. Um, but it's going to
Yes.
be needed.
Yes, definitely. And yeah, the consistency of messaging for children and being able to, I guess, navigate the school environment again. I remember when my son went back to school and my daughter, they were both still at school, and the wellbeing team were calling parents to see what
Yeah,
our views were in how to transition them back to school.
yeah,
And there was some talk of, no, we just go back to the way it was. We just start the lessons again as per usual. But the wellbeing team were very keen to hear parents' views on that because
yeah,
we could see what the impact was at home of our children, and tapping into that parent knowledge was really essential to be able to understand where the students were at. Because
for sure.
to go back to the way things were was potentially going to cause more harm, and potentially perhaps that has happened in the amount of kids that we're seeing who are not wanting to go to school anymore, and the number of children who are struggling
Yeah.
to even now get back into some sort of study
Mhm.
routine. And the challenges for parents were huge as well, in terms of not only transitioning to learning at home, which is a really important aspect of the partnership, but also how to get them back into those school routines as well.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, it's
And
such a
manage their well-being as well.
yes,
Parents became teachers and well-being experts without even having any of the training or knowledge that we're fortunate enough to get through our job.
yeah,
And that the recognition of that, I think to be fair, teachers got a lot of good recognition during the COVID years that, oh, we now see what you do every day. But the parents did an outstanding job of really stepping up to become the teacher and to support the well-being in a way that they never had to before.
yes,
Um, and we need to come together and really have those conversations about what's happening for your child, what are the barriers now, how do we make this education program for them work. And I think the traditional, you come to school, you go to class for 5, 6 periods a day, you go home, that's not working for so many kids. And we need more funding. We need more in the way of alternative programs that are going to meet the needs of more students that currently we're not meeting.
yeah. How are you managing the changes in your school in terms of how you transitioned students back into the normal school
Mm.
routine, and what sort of programs have you introduced
Mm.
post-COVID that has been needed to implement to be able to address the wellbeing challenges that children are having at the moment?
Yeah, a few different ones. I've actually moved school since COVID as well. So it was, brand new school and okay, what brand new things can we bring in? One of the programs I brought in last year into the school that I'm in my AP role was a positive start program each morning. So again, lots of students really highly anxious in the morning about just the thought of coming to school and worrying about this class or that teacher or these students. So lots of worries, lots of stresses keeping them from coming to school. So we created a program called Positive Start where students would come into the wellbeing space every morning and spend 25, 30 minutes in there, really just getting ready for the day mentally and emotionally and thinking about what does my day look like? What are the challenges that I anticipate? What am I worried about? And talking those out. Okay, how are you going to build resilience around that problem? Or how are you going to manage that conversation? How are you going to get organized for that class? So, all of the obstacles, how are we going to get past those? And then saying, right, are we ready to go? Let's get you into class now that you know you've got a plan for the day and you're set to go and put that into place. So that's one that we've been really proud of. The school that I joined last year has got a hands-on learning program, which I know is across a lot of schools in Victoria, and it's a fantastic program for those students who need a break from the academic classroom to come out and work with their hands, work on projects, in a smaller environment, and that's been really awesome for some of our probably our more challenging students to come into that and go, yep, I can just burn off the energy, hammer nails, or making this, do whatever it is, and that's worked really well. We've also introduced like self-esteem, body image, self confidence programs, really again around who are you? Does it matter what other people think of you? How does social media impact how you feel about yourself? Is that real? Is that not real? All those kind of conversations to help teenagers who seem to be really struggling with their own identity to figure that out and feel confident and self-assured in who they are. So those have been some of the good ones that we've introduced so far. The mental health toolkit's got some great programs on there, albeit the great ones tend to have a cost, and that can be a challenge for schools. But yeah, I think those have been good ones. We've done a boys program around respectful relationships type content. Again, a lot of kids at home during COVID and even now experiencing a lot of family violence, and seeing that really toxic masculinity in the home and teaching them how to be a man that is kind, compassionate, caring, respectful. That's been a really important one too.
Yeah. Well, they sound amazing, and it sounds like you've really just had to think about how do we meet the students where they're at and adjust the way that we do things to be able to really help guide them through these challenges. And I think that it's so important, and perhaps COVID did highlight the need for this to happen. So I think, yeah, I see a lot of positives come out of COVID as well as some of the challenges. But it sounds like, yeah, I guess the government coming on board with recognizing that mental health in our country, throughout our whole nation, is a real challenge, and really being able to support schools to address these challenges. And I guess in my work too is building the capacity of parents to know what to do as well. And yeah, having those consistent messages in the home is really important as well. Is there
For
any
sure.
is there
Yeah.
anything else that you'd like to share in relation to, I guess, the work that you're doing with teachers in supporting them through uh, your coaching, and really, is there anything else that you'd like to share to, I suppose, promote your work?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I guess it's good for everybody to take that moment to stop and pause and reflect, because I think and I really believe that we're all here for a reason. And if that reason is in education, fantastic. We need you. We absolutely need you. But we need you to know what it is specifically that you're going to do to make a difference for the young people that you work with. Because every teacher who comes into a school has got those gifts and talents to bring and a reason for being there. And helping teachers to figure out what that is really, really important, so that they don't just come to work, teach their subject, and go home. There's more to it than that. We're working with young minds, young people. We're working, it's a human-centered industry, and we need to know what it is that we are bringing to that and helping our young people with. And that's what I love to help teachers figure out. And if that means moving to a new school or getting into a promotional role, I love helping people to do that. But firstly, working out, why am I here? What's my purpose? What goals do I want to set? And mapping that out so that they are really giving their all in a way that feels easier, so that they don't burn out, in a way that seems aligned and feels aligned with who they are. And they're not going against the grain, because I think when we go against the grain, we butt heads with whatever the system is telling us to do. If we're following our passion and using our gifts in a way that works for us, that makes work not work. It's that old saying of find a job you love and you'll never work a day in your life. I love helping people to find something that they love so that it doesn't feel like work and it doesn't result in burnout and mental health issues and teachers quitting the profession.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's
That
So
Yeah.
important that we have healthy teachers in front of students so that they are uh, providing that positive example for students as well in terms of how they manage themselves and how they cope with stress. And I guess in the increase in children's behavioural challenges is really testing teachers,
Yeah.
and your coaching is supporting them to be able to manage themselves as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I think we're going to see more and more well-being type roles coming into school. Um, and I think, there's quite a number of teachers, as we know, leaving the profession. Well, if you've got any interest in well-being, we need you back into schools, but maybe in a well-being position or well-being role, because you are in a perfect position to know what the issues are and to use that passion for young people in a slightly different way that is needed. And I think the government need to give more funding for wellbeing in schools. We've employed someone this year to really focus on coaching teachers around how to support wellbeing in the classroom, rather than just saying that's a wellbeing team problem. How do we
Yes.
upskill teachers to be able to manage well-being in the classroom? Because a lot of people are a bit, oh, I don't know what to do with that. I don't want to say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. We need funding to be able to train our teachers to manage well-being in the classroom. But if teachers are really set on leaving teaching, think about a well-being role, a well-being position that you could move into and use that love for young people in a different way.
Yeah, and it all comes back to that, doesn't it? The love and care of children, and that's something that you and I both share a passion
Yeah.
for. And I
Yeah.
really appreciate you sharing your story on the podcast, because I think it's really important for other teachers to hear from someone who has come on quite a journey from your hometown of Ireland or your home country of Ireland to Australia to make a difference for young people. And yes, I really appreciate you sharing your expertise and your stories today. Is there anything else you'd like to
Um,
say before we
No,
finish up?
thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, if anybody out there would like my help, I would love to help you. I'm ready to teach and support anybody who's ready to make a change, make a step up in their career. So thank you for this opportunity, Rachel. It's been an absolute pleasure talking with you today.
You're welcome. And I've loved hearing your accent. I love the Irish accent. And I'll include your details in the links below the video on the podcast so people can get in touch with you and get to know you more and the services that you're providing. So thank you so much.
Thanks.
Well, what another inspiring interview in our Leadership in Education series of our Creating Connections podcast. If you enjoyed this interview and would like to learn more from other leaders in education, please click on the subscribe button to receive further podcasts on your feed. If you'd like to be a guest on our podcast, click on the link below to book a meeting with me to learn more about you and your leadership in education. Or if you're listening to this podcast, send an email to rachel@practicallylearning.com.au to express your interest in being on the podcast. If you are a school leader or teacher with aspirations for leadership, but you're challenged with self-doubt, overwhelm, and whether you have what it takes to take that next step, our Connect with Your Mind Mastery Coaching Program can support you to work on your own self-mastery to become the leader you aspire to be. For further information about our coaching and professional learning programs, please visit our website at practicallylearning.com.au or click on one of the links below and visit our podcast for our future series of interviews to support you as the adults who are guiding children on their learning journey. I do hope you enjoy the rest of our episodes on our Creating Connections podcast, and I hope to meet you soon.